Welcome to Caffeinated Flicks, where we drink coffee and celebrate diverse directors one movie at a time.
I'm Celeste.
And I'm Kenzie. Today, we decided to take a little adventure and try out a local coffee shop called New Penny Cafe. It's based out of Avondale and it's really cute. Oh my gosh, so cute.
Pretty much, yeah. If you want to go and spend unnecessary money, like get like cute little knickknacks and shop local.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everything that they sold there was a local vendor of some sort. But yeah, so I got a black iced coffee because nothing beats the first sip of just straight black iced coffee. What'd you get?
I got my dirty chai with oat milk. It's my go-to. One of my go-tos.
I was going to say it's classic Celeste. So today we're recapping Jordan Peele's Nope. We wanted to do this as our first Jordan Peele movie because it was recently released on Amazon Prime. And so it just felt like really good timing.
Yep. And then I think this is Jordan Peele's third feature film that he's directed. And I just wanted to comment that it's so funny to see that creating films that are within like the horror and thriller genre when I feel like he's been most known as far as an actor. And a lot of the work that he's done has been like comedy and he's doing so well.
Yeah, I know everybody's talked about Get Out and Us and now Nope. Like everything has been such a great social commentary as well as just invigorating horror and thriller movies. And I think this comes back to the idea that it's easier to get into horror films because they generally have smaller budgets than they have the opportunity to really get creative with it. So this movie stars a very relatively small cast. We've got Daniel Kaluuya, Kiki Palmer, Brandon Freya, Michael Wincott, Stephen Yoon, Ren Schmidt, Keith David, and a couple of other cast members. But those are our top 7 actors in this movie.
And then Daniel, I think this is a second film with Jordan Peele because he starred in Get Out also. And then Kiki Palmer, oh my gosh, I love her. She's so funny. I don't know if you've seen any interviews with her, but that girl can say anything and I will crack up. But I was looking at her actors credits and she's not even 30. She's 29 and she already has over 20, not 29, over 100 acting credits.
Oh my gosh. So she's as old as I am, is what you're saying.
Yeah. She's younger than me is what I'm saying. And then Steven, is it Yun?
I think it's Yoon.
Yun, yeah. And I think he's best known for Glenn from Walking Dead. Did you watch that?
Oh, no, I didn't watch Walking Dead, but I do remember seeing him in like commercials and stuff. So yeah, that totally makes more sense now.
Like, that's why I recognize him from, which is gone on forever. Unfortunately, he had a gruesome death, but
Oh, what?
I heard a lot of people stopped watching after his death scene.
Oh, back to Kiki Palmer though. Like she was a child actor too. Like I remember growing up with Kiki Palmer.
I do too. Again, she's been in the industry forever.
Yeah. I feel like she started, was it in Disney?
I think so. Yeah. I think she started in Disney.
It comes back to like that Christy Carlson Romano and like Amanda Bynes, like just growing up with those like child actors that just became really, really big. And it's so good to see like Kiki Palmer really continuing on and like coming back from that because so many of those actors unfortunately have like stopped acting due to issues that they've had, whether it's mental health or physical health or anything of that nature, because people don't really talk about just the intense issues you go through when you're an actor and you're working in the the industry, which I'm sure you know because you were trying to be an actor for such a long time.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I can't even imagine like being a child actor. It's always perceived to be about glitz and glamour, but the amount of pressure and mental health issues that come along with it. So it's good to see that she's continued and appears to be doing well. She just had a baby. No, she was just yeah. I follow her on Instagram and TikTok.
I do that sometimes with actors. Well, shall we get into the ratings?
Alrighty, I will go ahead and cover the 10 out of 10. So that is, I haven't felt well today, and this still hit the spot. Nope is everything I'd want it to be and more. Ultimate IMAX experience with the sound. Cinematography is beautiful throughout, and the intensity was so good. Jordan Peele created another hit that should be appreciated. I love all of the characters, especially the leads are magnificent in this epic adventure. A lot more symbolism hinted throughout. I hope that Nope is well received. It deserves to be a hit.
I Speaking of the IMAX experience, I heard that this is, I think, his first film to be shown in IMAX, and I
Oh,
can only imagine like how that experience was. To be fair, I've never been to an IMAX, but I hear they're really intense and like really all consuming essentially.
it's like a whole next level experience, especially with films like this.
All right, so another 1 out of 10 that I feel didn't really understand the plot of the movie. So the 1 out of 10 goes, I don't often write reviews, so I will keep this brief. I had read mixed reviews on this, but thought I would judge for myself. It was bad, really bad. I'm surprised it made it to cinema. I persevered for an hour and 30 minutes, hoping anything remotely interesting would happen, but it didn't. It is a terrible film, and I had to turn it off. I didn't get the hype at all. I didn't even have to pay to watch it, feeling extremely disappointed. I even made my family continue watching because I insisted it would get better, more in hope than anything else. So take this from me, avoid it. Yeah, I think this person just doesn't like movies.
I persevered. How dramatic. Like, sir, you're watching a movie. Calm down.
And we're gonna get into it, but I think this is actually a very good movie. Like, I think it kept the pace really well. It kept you interested. Like, if you really paid attention to the dialogue, like it was very engaging. So
I agree. Yeah. And I don't know if it was, no, I don't think I mentioned it, but I think I saw another comment saying that 2 hours is way too long. I did not feel like that at all.
I mean, honestly, I prefer movies that are somewhere around the 90-minute mark, but if it reaches into 2 hours, if it's engaging enough, it's not an issue. But I mean, if you think back to this last season of Stranger Things, there were episodes that were like 2 hours and 15 minutes long. And I'm like, this is a damn movie for just one episode.
But if when it's engaging, like you said, and but well made, it doesn't feel like it. Like that time flies by.
For sure. All right, let's crack into this movie, shall we? We open with credits, and during these credits, we hear a voiceover about a birthday party and people commenting on how to provide birthday gifts and whether or not they're good or bad.
So when I first saw the opening scene, I didn't realize we had already gotten into the movie. So apparently Jordan Peele is the founder of Monkey Paw Production. And so I literally thought that it was just like the production company introduction. You know how they give like there's like little video snippet. I thought that's what we were watching still. And so I was like, dang, this is really long.
Dude, I thought the same exact thing until I watched it like the second time to take note. I was so lost. I was like, oh, okay. I guess this is just part of the credit scenes, you know?
And then it wasn't until they did another flashback to that scene that I was like, oh wait, this is a part of the movie.
Exactly. And I think that's probably just some of the genius behind it, you know? So we open to a destroyed TV set. There's a person lying on the ground behind a couch. There's blood splattered everywhere. And then in the middle of the set, there's a single shoe just standing straight up on the heel. Very alien like. It's very creepy. So a chimpanzee in like a Hawaiian shirt and a birthday hat comes into the scene, and he has blood all over his snout and his hands, and he's wiping it everywhere and just making a giant mess. And then we have a scene change to nighttime at a house in the middle of nowhere as the sun starts to rise. we realize that we're in a ranch in the California desert, and we begin to see a man begin chores by grabbing hay from a hay pile and feeds horses. So we're on a horse ranch. And as we progress through the morning, horses are trotting around through the barn. We see horses being walked in a circle. And then the same black man from the beginning, OJ, is walking towards an older black man who's training a white horse. We come to find out that they are father and son. And the father says that if they get this job, they don't need to sell any more of their horses. Then the dad inquires about where OJ's sister's at. OJ just kind of brushes him off and he begins to walk away with his phone. And then his phone begins to lose service and power. And then we hear a metallic whine begin. From there, we hear and see projectiles falling from the sky at massive rates. OJ looks back at his father to see him slumped over the white horse. And the horse begins to walk out of the gate. And as it does, his father collapses to the ground. OJ rushes to him, and we catch a glimpse of the two men in the truck as OJ is rushing him to the hospital. And during the scene, he's trying to keep his father awake. And so he's asking him, like, what are all the names of the horses? And so he's going through, there's Lucky, there's Ghost, there's all these different horses. And he's just trying to keep his dad awake. And we just see blood falling from his face. We don't really know what happened, but we see that there's blood falling from his face onto the truck door. Ultimately, we see his dad on an autopsy table and we catch a glimpse of his x rays. And there's something round that's lodged into his eye. At that point in time, OJ returns home. There's still blood all over his shirt from trying to carry his dad into the truck. And he has a nickel in evidence bag. And so we can assume that that was the round object that was lodged in his father's eye.
That's insanity. Did you hear about when, like, I think I learned about it in school. They said that if you go on one of those rides that lifts you up and drops you, and you drop a penny, that it has the potential to actually kill someone.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah. It used to be a thing that if you went to the Empire State Building and you stood at the top and you threw a penny, it would become fatal.
that's insanity.
Mhm. Yep. You never know what's going to kill you. We get to the credit sequence and we open on a movie and TV set, and OJ and a black horse are standing in front of a green screen. What I love about this scene is they've put little markers of tape on the black horse too, on either side of it. I'm like, what's happening here? So then OJ asks the PA, the production assistant, for more time, that his team will get there soon. And then in walks in a white woman in a robe. She's got very big blonde hair, like huge blonde hair. And we're introduced to her as Bonnie Clayton and her assistant, a very flamboyant Flynn. They are introduced to OJ, and Bonnie very nervously asks, your name is OJ? And then he explains that it's short for Otis Jr. So her assistant, Flynn Bachman, asks the PA, Buster, what happened to the older gentleman? And then Buster informs him that he died about 6 months ago. And so Flynn is not terribly happy about this. He's like, oh, we got to deal with this guy now.
I found that scene so irritating because the lack of empathy. I was like, what? But that's showbiz for you.
Yeah. Then Flynn takes a moment to introduce the legendary cinematographer Antlers Holst. Buster asks OJ to do a quick safety meeting. OJ is very hesitant and he's very awkward about it. He looks down at the ground and he begins to introduce himself quietly, and they struggle to hear him. Right when he begins to struggle even more with his introduction, his sister Emerald, played by Keke Palmer, shows up and begins to present. Did you know that the very first assembly of motion pictures was a 2-second clip of a black man on a horse? Does anyone know the name of the black jockey that rode that horse? He was the first stuntman, animal wrangler, and movie star. And she begins to explain that Alistair E. Hayward, their great, great, great grandfather, was the owner and was the first animal wrangler. So Hayward Ranch, which is where the horses come from and where OJ is training all these horses, is a Black owned professional horse trainers in Hollywood. They're the only ones. And so then Kiki explains they've been at it from the beginning. And then she begins to go through the safety procedures, predominantly no loud noises, don't look in their eyes, like all of those things to make sure that the horses feel calm and feel safe. Then she walks off and she goes straight to the food. And OJ just tries to get her attention and is just so irritated with her. And then they begin to call for a run through. Bonnie asks OJ what the name of the horse is, and he says Lucky. Then I think it's the PA. I don't know if it's Flynn or if it's the PA, but somebody brings a reflective ball in front of the horse. And because it can see its own eyes, it freaks out and it kicks a bunch of makeup up into the air out of the hands of one of the makeup artists. So, of course, they're all freaked out.
Yeah, so essentially they did the opposite of what she told them not to do, of course.
So, outside of the set, OJ is speaking with an older man. He sounds like he's Australian, and he tells him that it's just not the gig. OJ says that they need this, but the man says, I know that it's been hard since your father passed away and it's left a giant hole, but ultimately it's just not the right gig for them.
Left a giant hole. Interesting choice of word.
Oh, I didn't
Is
even.
that 2 on the nose?
Oh my gosh. Oh, goodness. So then M, who is Emerald, catches up with OJ and they take off. OJ asks where he can drop her, and she says that she's going to go up with him and comments that he's no fun anymore. And then this is where we see them driving into the desert and they pass a gaggle of inflatable dudes. The ones that you'd find in front of a gas station or car dealership just waving and they're just very brightly colored. So at this point in time, they approach a Western amusement town called Jupiter's Claim. OJ says that Gold Rush, which was the Western town prior to Jupiter's Claim, has closed down and Jupiter's Claim has been there for about 3 years. M walks around and is taking in all the sights. She's looking at all the people. And then there's a well, like a wishing well, that takes photos from the bottom of the well up into the sky. This will come back later. OJ takes Lucky from the horse from the set and gives her to one of the stalls at Jupiter's Claim. M asks how many of their dad's horses he's sold, and OJ responds 10. And he exclaims to Lucky as well that he plans to get them all back. He's like, don't get comfortable. I'll come back for you. OJ then goes to speak with the owner of Jupiter's Claim. His name is Jupe, hence Jupiter's Claim, and asks M to stay outside because she's a liability, promoting everything outside of their animal wrangler business. She claims that he's the one who's the liability. And so they argue a little bit about that. But M follows anyway. She goes up into the owner's office and she sees that Jupe was a child star and she starts to try and ask a bunch of questions. But OJ, of course, is very annoyed at this because he's trying to make a deal. And Jupe says that the offer that he gave his dad is still on the table. Then M is dumbstruck by a picture of a Mad magazine of Gordy's home. Jupe gets so excited about this that she's so interested in this. And he takes her into this secret room where it's filled with Gordy's home memorabilia and it's like a museum to Gordy's home. He explains the horrible scene that we saw at the very beginning of the movie and has a very brief flashback to Jupe hiding underneath the table during that scene. I'm so confused as to why he's so invested in this museum, since this was clearly a traumatic event for him. But I guess that's probably how he copes. I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking. It's probably some sort of coping mechanism for her. Yep.
So OJ and M return to the ranch and she asks if they're going to chill. She asks what the offer was also that Jupe had. And OJ says that the owner wants to buy the ranch. And of course, M's like, you can't do that. OJ walks away and M is really interested in just them hanging out. And so eventually they agree that they're going to go ahead and hang out. While inside, M sees a picture of a horse. This horse's name was Jean Jacket. And this horse was supposed to be her first horse. And then she explains that has told her therapist that their dad sent their horse off to a movie set. Apparently, it was from the set of The Scorpion King. And OJ says that that was the first set that their dad ever took him on, and it was quite boring.
I think they said that they ended up using camels instead.
They did, yep, yep, yep. And it's really funny. So it's a callback to The Mummy, right? So The Scorpion King was the sequel to the second Mummy, and it was actually like The Rock playing Scorpion King. Yeah. Did you ever see that movie?
I did, yeah, and I found it really disturbing that they casted The Rock. It just looked yeah.
I remember in the second Mummy, he was all CGI, and so it looked very awkward.
It really did.
I love it. So then M is looking out the window and she says, "Why is Ghost in the arena?" And here we get a title card that says Ghost. I love these little title cards that he included in this movie, just as a side note. So OJ goes out to check on Ghost and he looks up the sky and sees an eerily still, odd shaped cloud. And I mean, clouds are often very shaped oddly, but this was oddly even for a cloud. Music starts to blast from the house, and we see M get her groove on. This, of course, spooks Ghost because it's so loud and he just takes off. OJ goes after him in an all terrain cart, and then he looks over the ridge and sees lights down in the valley. This is when he hears Jupe start his show. The lights go in and out, and when they come back on, there's a shrieking whine that resonates off the lights and leads to the sky. We then go back to M, and the power slowly dies and then comes back on. OJ goes back to the house, and then OJ and M go to review the surveillance tape. The surveillance tape doesn't reveal much, and OJ walks away while M is asking him, "What'd you see?" They go out to the porch, and OJ says, "What's a bad miracle?" They got a word for that? And M replies, "Nope." See, I remember when we discussed doing this movie, you had told me that there's an obvious scene as to why they say that the movie is called Nope. And I thought that this was it.
I don't even remember this scene, but yeah, I was referencing the other scene when he yeah, puts a lot of emphasis on nope.
Yep. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is it. Uh, nope, that is not it. OJ explains that supposedly their dad was killed by debris from a prop plane but that never made sense to him. And it doesn't make sense to me either. Like prop planes, they fly low as opposed to like commercial jets or anything like that. And so it just wouldn't get enough velocity to do that. And I just can't imagine a prop plane carrying that much nonsense.
Who knows?
All right. So then M asks him again, what did he see? He heard sounds he never heard a horse make. And whatever he saw, it was big and too fast and too quiet to be a plane. This is when M already starts to believe that it's aliens. The next day, they're out running errands and they begin to build plans for how to capture pictures of the aliens. They're looking for the Oprah shot, they call it. And then they go into Fry's Electronics. And during this, they're continuing their discussion of how to get a shot of these aliens. As they're approaching the counter, Angel, a Fry's employee, calls them over to his checkout line. He begins to check them out, and I cannot state just how incredibly rude Angel is being because he's asking them, are you going to need installation help? And they're like, no, it's fine. And then he just kind of undermines their ability to install things. He's just like, you're never going to be able to do this.
He's so rude throughout this whole film, basically. I'm sorry. I would have been like, can someone else help me? We're done.
Oh my gosh. So rude. So they explain that they've been experiencing random power outages. And he says that maybe it's a UFO hotspot sarcastically. And then they both kind of share a look and they're like, maybe. He drives all of the equipment to the ranch and then he gets out and he's like, wow, you guys are really out here. M asks whether or not this is going to take a long time. Then she decides to skip out. And Angel, as soon as he gets to the back of the van, he yells into the ether, like he just screams. And OJ's just like, what's going on, man? And Angel explains that he just got out of a 4-year relationship and he begins to wallow, just explaining how she left him for the CW and he's just so pissed about the CW. It was so random. So he eventually installs the equipment and shows OJ how to use it. They have set up security cameras all over the property. Angel then explains that they don't call them UFOs anymore. They're UAPs. And if you don't know what a UAP is, that is an unidentified aerial phenomenon. And he explains that they changed the name of this as a conspiracy, essentially, to keep everyone uninterested or out of the know. And this actually did happen. Like they did change UFOs to UAPs about 2 or 3 maybe years ago when they released the like Navy footage of pilots gathering UFO information and data.
I have never heard of it.
I'm a nerd and I like to keep track of these things just occasionally. Like I'm a very background observer, if you will. They then begin to discuss aliens and the 3 different reasons why aliens would be there, essentially to gather resources, to kill everybody, or to take over the planet, essentially. And OJ is just not interested. And Angel tells him that he needs to start watching some ancient alien shit. Did you ever watch Ancient Aliens?
I am not an extraterrestrial person.
I think it's started from my love of science. Like I just fell in love with science and then I fell in love with aliens. And I remember when I was in my late teens, I would watch Ancient Aliens by myself at night and I was terrified.
Why would you do that to yourself? Yeah, my supposed love for aliens stopped the signs. I'm like, I'm good.
I love
I don't
that.
need it no more.
So eventually, as they're testing out the equipment, M returns with the truck and the trailer and calls out to OJ and Angel to come down. OJ asks what that is, and she says that they needed some training horses that she picked up. And she explains that this is a decoy. Jupe shows up across the fence line, and this scene is so funny because M and him are just in this like yelling conversation.
At first, I thought she didn't want him to approach because she stole the horse from him or something. I don't know if that's the case because, yeah, they just were in this like shouting conversation.
Yeah, I think that is what it is. Like she stole his horse, and he came up and he's like, "Hey, where'd you?" He was going to say, "Where'd you get your horse?" But she interrupted him and got to it first, and that threw him off. He's like, "Well, I guess maybe it's not my horse." And then she asked, "Where'd you get yours?" And he's like, "I don't know. My wife got it." Beyond this, Jupe then invites them to his new Family Live show, and he has a flyer, but it flies out of his hand. So he leaves and they go back inside the house, and Angel says that the cameras are all set up and suggests that he can monitor the feed himself if they want. They're like, hell no.
And then he continues being rude. I'm pretty sure at that point he's like, "Oh, assholes!" Like he makes some sort of comment like that. I'm like,
I'm like, excuse
"Dude,
me, privacy, please. And he does take forever to leave. He's like, oh, can you rate me? And they're like, 5 stars, Angel, 5 stars.
Kiki Palmer being classic."
So here we get another title card, and it says Clover. OJ is unpacking a grocery bag filled with a plunger, a sphere, and some spray paint. I'm not entirely sure what he's doing with this, but okay. And Em is asleep in her trailer. OJ sees the lights turn on outside and goes to investigate. Here's where we insert some horse sounds. They're getting all riled up. And he turns off the light after reaching the light switch. And as he's walking back, the light turns back on as well as the sprinklers. And he hears sounds of someone walking behind him. He looks back, and in the dark, there's this really creepy being just slowly rising. And he hears some rhythmic squeaking. The being gets on the ground and begins to follow him slowly. And he has his camera phone out and he's taking video. And this creature is just slowly peeking its face around the corner. And then all of a sudden, we see that there's a creature hanging upside down right next to him. And OJ just punches the shit out of his face. I laughed so hard at this point, and especially since after the being, quote unquote, falls, we realize that it's just a little boy in a costume.
And I think before that is when before he realizes it's like a child and punches someone in the
Yep, yep.
I think before that is when he like, "Nope,
No,
it's not."
mm-mm. Nope. I'll get to it. I got it. I got you. I
I'm
got
gonna
you. One stands up and they all start to take off their alien masks and there's three of them now and they're all just laughing at him. And then M comes in and she's like, "What happened?" And he's like, "It's just Oops boys, playing around essentially." But we see Angel in Fry's Electronics at night, I think after it's closed, and he's monitoring these screens that they have clearly told him, hell no, do not monitor this.
And then also, do Fry's Electronics still exist? That's what I'm thinking.
In the little trivia that I found,
Right.
Fry's Electronics closed in February of 2021. So this was kind of like their last hurrah. Kind of like Circuit City. They've all gone by the wayside. All right. As he's monitoring the screens and starting to freak out a little bit, his coworker Missy comes and she scares the shit out of him. Well deserved. Well deserved. You should not be creeping on people after they've told you not to. So we cut back to OJ and M goes to look at the security cameras, and all of a sudden a praying mantis pops on the camera and scares the shit out of her. At first, she's very like, "Oh, I see you, praying mantis." And then she starts to get pissed about it. Angel calls her to let her know that there's a bug on the camera. And she's like, "We told you not to monitor."
He basically called himself out for
Pretty
getting
much. But then he's like, also, camera B is down. Meanwhile, OJ is outside. He's wrangling Ghost, the white horse, and he looks up at the sky. A dust devil appears from this weird ass cloud and sucks up the training horse that they had put out. M comes outside and she calls for OJ while Angel is still on the phone. The horses are neighing and she yells at OJ that it's in the cloud. OJ then runs towards the house and we see a shadow move across the sky behind the clouds. He makes it to one of the horse barns to take cover. Meanwhile, all the power goes out, but camera A is still on, with the praying mantis on it, of course. This is where Angel officially becomes spooked. M rushes to the roof, and this is like a two-tiered roof, essentially. And she's on the first tier, and she begins throwing Sour Patch Kids at the camera.
what she was throwing. I had no idea.
Yeah, because there's a line where she says, "Praying mantis, I hope you like Sour Patch Kids." So she's trying to get the praying mantis off. It's clearly not working. OJ is still in the barn and he's watching as the shadow moves across the sky, very stealthily, very quickly, very agile. He hears a horse galloping, and then we see another dust devil, and we hear a heartbreaking horse shriek happening. So from the roof, M sees the saucer move across the sky as well. She wants them to take off like a bat out of hell. She's found OJ and she's like, "We need to get out of here."
I love that they put that line in or just added that into the script because that's like the logical thing to do. Like characters don't typically act logical in horror movies. And I'm so happy they added this because this is a normal person would think. This is how a normal person would react. They'd be like, we need to get the F out of here.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. Especially at night. I don't know what it is about nighttime. It just makes everything scarier. So OJ is super calm and he's staring at the surveillance footage and says that the saucer's not coming back tonight. So there's no point in leaving, essentially. Then we cut to daytime and OJ is suiting up a horse harness. I can't remember what they're called. A saddle? Oh yeah. He's suiting up a saddle I swear I know what I'm talking about. And then his dad is leaning against the horse barn door frame, and we can hear ghosts neighing in the distance. And his dad just says, "Some of them aren't meant to be trained." And then we see that OJ is just in bed and he's recalling a memory of his dad. So now we cut to the next day and we see a room with a tropical-ish view and a bunch of monitors playing documentary style animal footage. The phone rings and a gruff voice answers. M is on the other line. We find out that she's calling Antler's host. She says that they have a project and it's the offer of a lifetime. They don't have any money to give him right now, but she promises that it's the impossible. She pitches the project as reality, and then OJ's like, no, no, tell him a documentary. Antler says that that's better. It's a little bit more intriguing for him. And he basically is like, what are you trying to do? I've got a lemon tart ready to be served to 10 of my closest friends. Well, clearly we can see that he is not. He's just trying to get her off the phone. And at this point in time, OJ and M start to bicker. And I'm always astounded when people decide to fight while they're on a phone call. I'm like, that's not a good look. It's not cute. At least mute yourself if you're going to do that.
The audacity.
So then M gets back to her conversation with Antlers. And she says that he's the only person in the world who can do the impossible. And this is where Antler says, this dream that you have of being on top of the mountain with all the eyes on you, it's the dream that he never wakes up from. And then he hangs up. So then M and OJ look outside the window after their defeat with his phone call, and they see that Angel in his phrase van is coming back.
So did he just invite himself back?
Yes,
Like, I'm pretty sure at no point they called.
they were tired of this dude from the beginning, which I do not blame them, but he will not leave them alone. So Angel gets out of his van and he's just astonished. She's like, holy shit, it's real. Angel goes to monitor the surveillance camera and he speeds up some of the recordings. And then they notice that one of the clouds hasn't moved at all. This is the odd shaped cloud. And M says that they have proof. But then Angel's like, well, it's not really proof because you can't see anything. Like it could be just a weather phenomenon or something like that. So they got to keep trying. And this is where OJ chimes in and says, it doesn't move like a ship. Then we get another title card to Gordy. We're taken back in time to the beginning of Gordy's birthday party. We see through the camera lens the scene play out. There's an older white man who's playing a dad, an older white woman playing a mom. There's a little Asian boy and a white girl. You hear chimpanzees in the background, and the camera cuts, and we hear chaos ensue. This is also where we hear the same dialogue from the very beginning come into play. So that way we know, oh, that's not part of the actual like title sequence per se. It's part of the scene. So after it goes black, we come back and we see that the camera view is going all around the TV set. And we listen as balloons pop and the chimpanzee, we can hear it jumping and seemingly beating people. And then we see from the boy's perspective as he hides underneath the table, Gordy is on top of the woman on the floor on the other side of the couch and just starts to pummel her. Then the older white man, who's still capable and able, he is standing on the left side of the stage and he tries to run away from Gordy, but Gordy chases him off the set and we hear his demise in the distance. This is where we see the beginning scene that we saw where there's the TV set that's destroyed, the girl's body is on the floor, and there's just a chute in the middle of the set itself. And Gordy comes back in the frame. He's bloody and he starts knocking on the girl's foot to see if she's moving. And then Gordy looks over and sees the little boy underneath the table. He very slowly and calmly comes up to the little boy and sits and offers his knuckle very slowly underneath the table to essentially do a fist bump. Right before their two knuckles bump, because the little boy has brought his hand up to try and like appease the chimpanzee. Gordy is shot right in front of the little boy. He's just taken out.
Gruesome scene.
It is. It truly is. And then we come back to present day and we see that Jupe is reminiscing what happened that day. We see his wife. She's a very cute woman. I love her little pixie cut. And she's just in this like cowgirl outfit essentially. And so they're getting ready for their next show. And she comes over to him and she sees that he's kind of out of it. And she puts his cowboy hat on for him. And they take a moment for him to practice his spiel for his next show. Doo, doo, doo. So then we have a title card that says Lucky. We come back to OJ and Angel on the ranch. OJ sees Jupe's flyer on the ground, ironically in a pile of horse manure. And he states that he's going to go back and get Lucky. We cut to Jupe in the middle of an arena on the edge of a cliff, and he's performing in front of a sparse crowd. Jupe exclaims, with Western music on in the background, that he and his family have bore witness to a spectacle for the last 6 months. The first time it happened, he went to wrangle a horse at 6:13 p.m. And this is a very important number for this movie. Like 6:13 shows up regularly. But at 6:13 p.m., he sees a saucer appear. Jupe snaps, and the sheet that was covering a large box in the middle of the arena comes off and reveals that Lucky is in the middle of this box. Jupe states that they're being observed by what he calls the viewers. Then he calls out to his kids to fill some time, and these were the boys who were dressed up as aliens. And all of a sudden, we begin to hear a metallic roaring. The saucer begins to lower from the sky, and then it's no longer in sight. Jupe is like, oh, they're early. It usually happens in an hour from now, but they're early, so let's go ahead and get this started.
I'm so confused by this. Like, what was going through this audience's mind? They had children. Like, I'm sorry. Also, I want to know what was advertised to like bring in this crowd. Like, what were they saying they were going to witness? Because, yeah, just
I might witness it from an underground bunker with like a little ice lot, but that's about it.
right.
So we cut to a bunch of icy machines in the middle of the arena as well, and they start to slow to a halt. So we know that the power is going out in this area. Wind begins to pick up and it begins to look like a tornado as people look up and they begin to be sucked up into this tornado. We cut to inside the ship and it looks as though the people who've been sucked up are moving through intestines. Like it looks like they're moving through a digestive system. And we just constantly hear for the next several minutes some groaning, some crying, some yelling, and beyond. Here we cut to OJ getting to the gate of Jupiter's claim, and he's walking around and he sees that there's shit knocked over, and all of a sudden there's a pig on a roof. The pig was very cute, I'm not gonna lie. So OJ continues through the park until he reaches the arena. Surprisingly enough, Lucky is the only thing that was left. OJ cautiously looking towards the sky, and he's calling for Lucky. He sees the saucer in the sky, and it announces itself with some low popping sounds. And then as it comes down into the arena like an octopus attacking prey, OJ dives out of the way into a covered area. Then we cut to OJ on the ground. He has clearly been knocked out, and it's raining. He comes to and he sees Lucky right outside of this little wooden structure that he dove into. And then we cut back to Angel as he's just trying to leave the ranch. And he says that he'll be back the next day to M. And then just as OJ starts to call in, Angel gets into his van. And I do love this because all of a sudden his van is playing Sunglasses at Night by Corey Hart. And I adore this song. So M picks up and OJ says that it's not a ship. And we cut to Angel just barely getting down the road when the van dies. OJ explains that it's not a ship, it's an animal, and it's hungry and territorial. At this point in time, Angel knows what's up, and he runs straight back to the house. Em is inside the house, and she overhears screaming. And all of a sudden, while it's pouring down rain outside, we start to see things happening outside of the house. Angel asks, "Who the hell is that?" M whispers to not make so much noise that aliens are above them. And we return to the interior of the alien and we just see a bunch of squishing happen. Then all of a sudden, random materials begin to fall from the sky, and they are the random belongings of the Jupiter's Claim attendees. Then, in a very gruesome way, we see blood begin to rain down on top of the house. OJ is on his way back when the truck stops just outside the house, and he can see the rain pouring down along with the bloody house that's appearing in front of him. When I saw this, it was very reminiscent of Jurassic Park when they're outside the Tyrannosaur paddock and it's raining and their cars have stopped and they're just looking outside of their windshields and it's looks just like that.
I don't remember that scene. I can't think of it.
Well, to be fair, Jurassic Park is my favorite movie, so I have watched it like 10,000 times.
There you go.
As OJ is sitting in the truck, Lucky begins to neigh in the trailer and the rain stops around the truck. OJ slowly cracks the truck door open and he looks up and he sees that the alien is dead center above him. This is when he says, "Nope," and then he shakes his head. This is the nope that we've been talking about. So the alien above him starts to make these like deep whale sounds. And just as OJ looks out over the windshield, the training horse from earlier comes crashing into the windshield and it's all bloody. He retreats as far as he can to the door. And after time has passed, the power comes back on and a distorted and slow version of Sunglasses at Night continues to play. Angel and M argue about whether to stay or leave the house. OJ very slowly drives up to the house, very slowly gets out of the truck, goes behind the truck, sees the van, and then he hears M and Angel arguing. He opens up the van door and he puts his head down and he's motioning that for them to run on over. And just as M and Angel start to run towards the van, he sees the alien above. OJ recalls the incident with Lucky at the beginning of the film and says, "Don't look into its eye." He keeps his head down and M and Angel reach the van. And as soon as they do, they take off like a bat out of hell. They're hiding out at Angel's place. And this scene is so weird because it's just M and Angel are wearing VR headsets and OJ's just sitting in a chair, just contemplating very quietly. So then we switch to a news report where they're reporting the disappearances at Jupiter's Claim. We see that Antlers is listening to the news and he suddenly becomes intrigued. He is starting to understand why M called. Our three protagonists are now sitting in a diner. OJ exclaims that he doesn't think it eats them if they don't look into its eyes. And then we're outside of the restaurant. OJ continues to exclaim that animals have rules. Each one of them we need to follow. Then OJ says they don't have the footage they need and their moment is about to pass. At this point in time, Angel assumes that they're going to go back to his house because he is not going back. And then all of a sudden, M gets a text. We assume that this is from Antlers. And then even though Angel protested, they go back the next day. I don't understand that M and Angel have said multiple times that they need to leave and they're never coming back, and then they just keep returning. So Antlers meets them at the ranch, and he said that Cloud hasn't moved a goddamn inch. Angel starts to go off on his alien knowledge, but Antlers doesn't give a single shit about this. He wants to know how to see the alien. OJ says the alien ain't like the training horses. They claim they didn't bring the alien, that was Jupe. He didn't realize he was entering into an agreement with a predator, Jupe was. And then they want to know how to track the UFO, now lovingly referred to as Jean Jacket. Antlers suggests that they use the horses as bait, and Angel says, "No can do. These are horse people right here." OJ offers to get his star out of his trailer. They begin to strategize who's going to go where. And so they've got this map out and they've got all these cute little Monopoly pieces to kind of showcase where they will be set up. So they're outside, and Antler starts cranking up his camera and explains that this is a non electrical camera. This gets M and OJ really, really psyched up. And that's when M says, didn't I tell you this guy was the shit? Now we get a montage of them collecting all the resources that they need. They have the inflatable dudes, several walkie talkies, lots and lots of batteries and equipment. And then they say they just got to play it right. Antler says if OJ brings it, he'll get the shot. After dinner, Angel states that what they're doing is important. And very oddly and creepily, Antlers begins to recite in a deep, groggly, slow voice the Purple People Eater song. Did you ever listen to the Purple People Eater song when you were a kid?
No, what is it?
Oh my gosh. It's like this weird, what do you call it? Like nursery rhyme. It's like he had one eye, one ear, flying purple people eater.
That's weird. That's creepy. But aren't like all nursery rhymes like old creepy stories?
Well, they're all fucked up, I'll tell you that much. Well, so then it's the next day, and we get a title card, Jean Jacket. Angel and Antlers are paired under a camouflage canopy on the terrain. M is inside the ranch and starts to play record to try and draw out the alien. Then they have the inflatable dudes littered throughout the ranch, and they start to raise. OJ is outside on Lucky, and he's ready to ride. M gives him the signal, and he takes off. M heads to the surveillance room, and as M and Angel are bickering over the walkie-talkie, OJ sees that one of the inflatable dudes is down. Alien returns. All of a sudden, we see a white motorcycle come peeling down the driveway. M goes to greet him, and she says, "Hey, we're shooting a Verizon commercial. You can't be here." And he has this odd mirror helmet and pulls out this elaborate camera. And she asks who he is, and he asks who she is. I mean, if you're coming over to somebody's property, you don't ask who that person is. You're the intruder there, sir. He then begins to interrogate M, and she calls over the walkie-talkie. She's like, "Shit, this dude's from TMZ." So they say Jean Jacket is still in the area. She warns him not to go that way, and he just balks at her and heads straight direction, going like 60 miles per hour. As the inflatable dudes die down, we see the motorcycle halt, and the guy flies at least 20 feet from his bike. OJ takes off to help the man, and M the entire time is like, "Do not help him. Do not risk your life to help this dude."
Not deserve it.
So once he reaches him, the guy only cares about a camera. Like, this dude is just, his priorities are not straight,
They will do anything for the money shot.
including die. OJ is trying to help him, but he's just not listening. This guy only cares about getting it on film. He's like, "Aren't you taking a picture right now? Why aren't you taking a picture right now?" And right as that happens, Antler says that the camera needs to be reloaded. He's run out of film. So Angel is trying to quickly help him out. And he says in a callback to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, "It's he." OJ has to leave the man after all because it's just too dangerous, and this dude is clearly not caring. So he takes off on Lucky, and behind him, we can hear the writer screaming from across the valley. Jean Jacket then gets right on top of OJ, and OJ puts his head down, trying to avoid looking straight at the alien. Cut back to Angel and Antlers, and we see Jean Jacket in a cloud of dust. He's starting to build his little dust devil / tornado. And Jean Jacket passes and goes into the cloud. OJ and Lucky take off. Jean Jacket, though, comes in hot, and just before he gets too close, OJ launches an umbrella of flags up into the sky. This causes Jean Jacket to veer right because, as they found out with their decoy of the white horse, flags fuck this alien up. So all of a sudden, the crew is ecstatic and they get so excited because they got the shot. And they ask Antler to confirm that they got the shot. And all of a sudden, Antler just becomes extremely cryptic. He's like, the light, it's going to be magic soon. And after saying something else terribly cryptic to Angel, Antler goes up the mountain with his camera. He begins to film as Jean Jacket sees him and comes up real fast on it. Here we get the view from the camera, and Antler is getting sucked up into the alien. And that's it for Antler.
Along with their footage.
Shit.
Freaking A, man. All of that.
Like, seriously, man. I think what he's thinking is like after he's digested it, it'll just drop the camera.
I think so, but that's a long shot.
And you don't know where it's gonna drop it. Like so OJ and Angel are all looking up towards Jean Jacket. And all of a sudden, Angel is being sucked up for looking into its eye. But as that's about to happen, a tarp covers his face and he begins to fall down the hill. Jean Jacket then turns to M and she rushes inside. But as she gets inside, Jean Jacket sucks up the building around her. And luckily, she's okay somehow. Angel then takes the tarp and he's fallen into some barbed wire and he begins to wrap it around himself and he starts to get sucked up. But as soon as the barbed wire hits the inside of Jean Jacket, it spits him out.
I'm sorry. How much must that have hurt to be wrapped in barbed wire and then sucked? Oh my God.
Well, and not only that, dropped from like 60 feet with barbed wire on you. That's going to leave a mark.
Just a little scratch.
It's just a flesh wound. It's fine. So Emma's walking down the path and exclaiming, "Don't look, don't look." OJ sees her and says, "Get on that bike." From there, she looks back at OJ and Jean Jacket has transformed from a saucer shape into like a jellyfish flower. Is that how you would describe that? Like, that's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too when I saw it. I was like, what are we doing? What is this?
It's like the way that this alien or animal, quote unquote, acts is very ocean predator like. OJ gets back on Lucky, and just as M is trying to get the bike to go, it will not go. It's still dead because Jean Jacket is too close. OJ then calls to Jean Jacket and begins to head towards him. This causes Jean Jacket to lure away from M and towards OJ and Lucky as they begin to slowly retreat backwards. OJ looks back and forth between Jean Jacket and M, and he's just waiting for her to get onto that bike. OJ stops and waits. And Jean Jacket begins to propel its stomach/mouth outward like a starfish. We see like these weird frillies that are all green come out in different waves. And Jean Jacket is finally far enough away from M that she can take off on the bike. After she's gotten a ways off of the property, Jean Jacket begins to follow very quickly.
I found this scene so stressful because I'm like, if that thing gets close enough and the power goes off on this bike, she's a goner.
Right? I thought the same thing. Oh my gosh. So intense. And then she leads Jean Jacket to Jupiter's claim. Now she's very, very smart here. From here, she quickly goes to untie this gigantic inflatable jupe that had flags all over it into the sky. She gets it to launch up into the sky, and as she does, she runs over to the wishing well that had the camera in it, grabs some quarters, and begins cranking this camera. Jean Jacket follows the inflatable jupe into the sky and prepares to attack it. From the well, we see that Jean Jacket is beginning to try to engulf the inflatable. And then from inside Jean Jacket, after it is effectively or successfully engulfed the inflatable, we begin to see this inflatable compress within the intestines or stomach of the creature. And then, in the most satisfying way, it explodes in the sky. So M sees this, and as soon as she sees that explosion, she is beyond ecstatic. It's like a World Cup win ecstatic.
Well, yeah. I would say that's like an underwhelming reaction given the circumstances.
So from there, we see that Angel's still on the property and he's overseeing the ridge line where Jupiter's claim is, and he sees this explosion as well. We return back to M and she falls to the ground. I think this is a really good response to this. I would be exhausted.
Right? All that adrenaline and then finally dead.
Yep, yep, just release. Ugh. And as she's coming back towards the wishing well, we see that the film of that last shot when Jean Jacket was going to engulf the inflatable is beginning to be developed. Reporters are beginning to show up outside of Jupiter's claim, and we hear the murmurings of them trying to get the report. M then gets back up, and as the dust begins to settle, she sees OJ and Lucky just pass the gate. Then we return back to the film. It's like a Polaroid camera film style. And we see that the developed picture is Jean Jacket in its full evolution.
Yep, so she got that money shot. Oprah Winfrey.
She got the Oprah shot. And this brings us to the end of the film.
My thought was, I hope that those photos aren't confiscated by the FBI. That was
Truth.
his first thought.
They will do anything to keep a secret. I was so relieved when OJ and Lucky were at the end of that gate. I thought they had really died. So, some fun facts. This movie does not pass the Bechdel test. And there
Nope.
are about 3 women in this movie. They are all named, but they're never in a scene with each other. So there's no way they can have 2 lines of dialogue.
And I mean, Kiki Palmer's the only main lead. The other
Exactly.
two like have like a minute of screen time.
I think Missy, the coworker, only has like 10 seconds. So some fun trivia that I loved, and I got these tidbits while I was watching it. And then when I saw this trivia, I was like, oh, sweet, I'm right. Because Jordan Peele cites that some of the inspiration for some of these shots includes King Kong, Jurassic Park, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Signs, and Wizard of Oz. They were all influences for him in this film.
That's interesting. Mhm.
I suppose the King Kong is really just the interactions with Gordy.
Yeah, I can see that.
And as mentioned, Fry's Electronics did close all of their locations in February of 2021.
I'm surprised they even lasted that long. There was one nearby my house off of the 17 and Bell, and it was a ghost for the longest time. I remember we went there for something random. I was ordering it off Amazon. I wasn't getting there on time. The place is so massive, and there was nothing in it. We're like, how? How did this open? And then there you go, all gone.
Yeah. So, how do you feel about how this movie was ranked or rated?
I agree definitely more with the 10 out of 10 rating for sure. It's not your classic horror thriller film. It definitely has like a new take, especially even in comparison to other extraterrestrial kind of films. I loved it. I thought it was very entertaining. Again, it did not feel like 2 hours. So that's definitely a good sign. So
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely rate this at least a 9 out of 10. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I thought it was great. I don't know what that 1 out of 10 person was thinking, but this was such an enjoyable movie for myself. And I think part of it is because it's not like it's stressful, but it's not too stressful. And it does engage in that question of like, what are extraterrestrials? And what I do really love about it is that traditionally, when people talk about aliens, they see like this humanoid figure,
mhm.
but this was not anything like that. Like, this was more of play off of like ocean creatures, it seemed like, or an animal of some sort, like a predator.
Mhm.
And that is so creative because I sit there and I do think about how people see extraterrestrials and it's so humanoid focused. And how can we limit our imagination to only reflect ourselves and that's the only possibility for intelligent life. Like, I just
Yeah.
think that's naive.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So without further
Mhm.
ado, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Caffeinated Flicks. We will regularly be releasing episodes on Tuesdays now. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can follow us on Instagram at caffeinatedflixpod or email us at caffeinatedflix@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you all.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the flip side.